I am more than a little pissed off at Ubisoft. Now, color me triggered, as maybe Reddit or the internet would like to say when someone gets mad, but I do think there's a good reason for it. Now, this video isn't going to change the world. In fact, it's not going to change anything. Yes, I know that's cynical. It might change your view of Ubisoft a little bit. However, to give you context here, I truly believe that Ubisoft has betrayed their fans in a lot of ways in the past 6 months. Now, listen, I am not a hater of Ubisoft. I'm not one of those guys who, as soon as Assassin's Creed Odyssey came out, was like, oh, look at Ubi shit, at it again with the RPG crap, you know what I mean? I'm somebody who's liked the majority of the Assassin's Creed series, including the original titles and also the RPG side of it too. I like both, okay? I'm not a Ubisoft hater. I play Just Dance. I need me a new Splinter Cell at some point. But that context aside, Ubisoft has announced that they are shutting down their multiplayer servers for Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, and some other stuff in the past. We already talked about that. That's not really the kicker here. What's really the kicker is that this doesn't just affect multiplayer, and there was a very, very big lack of transparency and lying going on, in my opinion, with this entire thing, because it was originally announced that the online servers for a lot of these games would be shut down on September 1st of 2022. Now, if you're not aware of the date when I record this, because how would you be if you watch it in the future, it is August 21st, 2022, and the Assassin's Creed 3 multiplayer servers on PC have been down for weeks, by the way, weeks at this point. And they're not coming back. I actually tweeted at Ubisoft about this and called them out on it with their support, and they had the audacity to pretty much, in my opinion, lie through their teeth and say that they're aware that players are having connection issues with AC3 and a couple of other legacy games. A team is looking into the issue, but we don't have an ETA on a fix currently. We'll post to the forums once we have more info. Now listen, I hope I'm proven wrong and they come back and they've fixed it. However, here's the thing. A lot of people have been calling them out on it, not just me over on Twitter, the hellscape on Earth, because people have been in contact with them for quite a while now. One user has been in contact with them for weeks at this point, trying to get access to the single-player DLC on Assassin's Creed 3 on PC that they actually own. And here's the problem. Despite purchasing that, listen to this. A developer of the game, Assassin's Creed 3, on the Steam community app, a confirmed developer account, answered this one user before, because a lot of users were calling them out, and said, to answer some core questions here, what will happen to my Steam game if it was never installed or linked to Ubisoft? It will still be accessible to play as a single-player title. You will not lose access to this. But the second question is the kicker, and it's a real kick to the gonads if you own this game. What will happen to my Steam DLCs if they never were installed or linked to Ubisoft? And this is prior to the shutdown. DLC content for Assassin's Creed 3 will become inaccessible once the servers are closed due to the connection being required to validate the DLC. Whether your account/DLC was linked to Ubisoft Connect before this will unfortunately not change this. So they fucking stupidly tied the single player and multiplayer DLC in through the servers, where the servers have to validate that you own this in order for you to use it. This is single-player DLC. Things like the story expansions, like Tyranny of King Washington. Now, are those contained in the remastered Assassin's Creed 3 re-release for PC and for Xbox and PlayStation? Yes, but you shouldn't have to jump through the hoops of buying this again if you already own it and don't want the remaster. And frankly, PC users don't need the remaster. They can pretty much fix this up on their own, which is why it's oh so convenient and weird that that single-player DLC is now inaccessible and they can't even use it. They said that you will still be able to uninstall, install, and uninstall or install and launch the game. They wrote this very oddly. However, the DLC will not be accessible. So essentially, there will be no way to get that DLC on Steam, on computer. But it gets even worse. Not only is the single-player DLC being discontinued, but it already has been, and it's not September 1st. And this doesn't just affect PC, by the way. This is something going on multiple platforms with the online connectivity stuff with Ubisoft games that we're going to get into after this. But to give you a heads up, there was a user, and I'm going to link to these things as well, on Steam, who actually was in contact with Ubisoft support for over a week trying to get their single-player DLC to work, and they were told that the servers have already been decommissioned. Officially, they were told that. Now, Ubisoft won't say that publicly. They're not saying that on Twitter. They're not saying that on their own forums when they're called out on it. But people are finally starting to catch on to it, and they're pissed. This is the same company, it's worth mentioning, that not only did they completely pivot the style of their games, and I like their new games, okay? I like them. I'm not hating on them. But also who wasn't willing to do both. They weren't willing to do the older style of games along with the new ones, and they really douchily on their own website lump all of the original Assassin's Creed games into the banner of Assassin's Creed Legacy titles, which again is one of the douchiest things that a lot of these companies do with platforms, with games, with different consoles and stuff like that. They call them Legacy, and they basically say they're phasing it out, which is fancy corporate speech for, yeah, we know you paid for that, but we don't consider it good anymore because it's not super new and we're not making a ton of money off it right now. So here's the finger, and you can buy the new thing or you can shut the hell up. That's essentially what all of their old games have now been put under the umbrella term of, and even Ubisoft support on Twitter is addressing them that same way. Legacy titles, essentially these old titles. They're not the three newest ones, so who cares, right? That's essentially the attitude here. And in the official Ubisoft support ticket, they straight up told this person, thank you for getting back to us. Please note that we have decommissioned the servers for the game, and you won't be able to access the DLC for it. You can read more on the FAQ page linked below. I understand this is not the answer you were hoping for. However, if you need help with anything else, we remain at your disposal. And when you go to that website that they link on the support ticket that this person got, it just talks about decommissioning online services in September. It's not September. Is it September at Ubisoft? Like, are they on the moon? What's going on over there? Like, I don't understand how they think it is September right now. I don't even know what month it is. I'm so mad. How they think it's September right now when it's not. It doesn't make any sense. And they even make mistakes on their own stupid-ass article that they link to, including calling the Assassin's Creed 2 online components multiplayer, which, by the way, they're really not. All it was just some accessible Uplay crap. Now, that stuff's fun, and it's, as far as I'm aware, available on the Ezio collection, but again, it's about the principle of the fact that people already bought this. They already earned these things. They already own them. And the way that these games are set up fundamentally kneecaps them as soon as these servers go offline. If you don't have the re-releases of these games, you are no longer going to be able to get the Uplay exclusive things on those games unless you buy the remasters. So, for example, you'll no longer be able to earn exclusive skins, exclusive costumes, things like that. Now, some of those things are multiplayer things, and you might think, well, Jay, who cares? The multiplayer is going down. It was never that big of a deal anyway, right? Well, first off, I understand that attitude, but a lot of people, including me, do care about the multiplayer and did want it to succeed and stick around because it costs Ubisoft basically nothing, and they swim in money every year, and they're making $1 billion off of Valhalla microtransactions, okay? So there's no excuse for them shutting that down anyway. But even if I were to concede, you know what, it's the multiplayer, who cares? None of us care about it, right? None of us care, even though I do. Let's say I concede that point. Here's the problem. It's not just multiplayer stuff. It's skins and costumes for characters like Ezio, for characters like Edward in Assassin's Creed 4, when it gets to that one. It hasn't yet, by the way. But when it does, do you really think that they're going to shut all these down and keep 4 up forever? That is now going to be the final normal multiplayer experience for Assassin's Creed that is still alive. Unless someone reverse engineers servers or gets peer-to-peer connections working, I have no idea how they'll do that. Maybe they'd be able to. Assassin's Creed 3 seems like a nightmare since it's so checkpointed. You needed like the Uplay passport and you needed all this crap. It was released in that era where they were trying to sell online passes so that people wouldn't buy used games. It was that scummy era. Remember that? Mid PlayStation 3, mid Xbox 360, where they're like, oh dear God, used games, they're ruining us. Quick, kneecap the game if they buy it used. And then you'd have to get their passport or get their crap online, right? they already have so many checkpoints built into games like Assassin's Creed 3's original release that if you want to play any of these things on your own, you can't even really do anything after they do this. You can play through the single player, and whatever you have on your console or whatever you can re-download is usable on your console, your original, or your PC. But the problem is all that Uplay stuff, all of those exclusive skins, sometimes there are even gameplay changing elements, like it'll be more throwing knives, like additional bullet capacity for your character. Crap like that is now locked behind this arbitrary system that's being shut down for no reason. And yes, while I own the re-releases of these games because I am a simp for Assassin's Creed, and I very much enjoy it, and I'm sure I will still make videos on it after this really pisses me off, because they really sold this as if nothing was going to change except the multiplayer going away, but they didn't even stick to their guns and do it when they said they would. A lot more was going away than they actually originally kind of let people know in their press release, in my opinion. I think they really downplayed it and got some facts wrong on their own page. But also they did it ahead of time and completely kneecapped these games ahead of time so that people weren't able to play them to the fullest extent, even in the final month of their release if they were on PC. And again, this isn't just PC. I understand some people are probably going to think, I'm not a PC gamer, who cares? I know there's a lot of that attitude of like, it doesn't affect me, so it doesn't matter. Here's the thing. It affects a very big group of people, and that means it can affect you too in the future with other things this company makes. This is setting a bad precedent for customer treatment from a company that you pay to get an actual experience out of. And on top of that, these problems are also persistent in other places like Xbox, where if you were to play through Assassin's Creed Unity, for example, which, oh no, Unity sucks, I know, everybody hates Unity, which has been fixed up a lot, though, on Xbox. FPS boost. It's looking crystal clear now. It's running so well. It's been patched to all hell. Most of the glitches are gone. And it's a really solid game, especially if you like that original style of Assassin's Creed. There are certain high-end gear items locked behind co-op missions, which, yes, you can do without another person, but it's not easy. It was not designed for that. It was designed for 2 people or more to be able to play through and do together. So now that they're also having issues over there, which has purportedly been going on for months as well, actually about 6 months at least on those servers, they're already kneecapping elements of that game too. And I think only the Xbox team, the people doing FPS boost and stuff like that, they can only fix so many things with these games. At the end of the day, it's also the responsibility of these companies, right? And it makes me wonder, is there going to be a point at which, the new re-releases suffer for it? Like, is there going to be a point at which Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered or Assassin's Creed, Unity with the FPS boost or any of these games, the Ezio collection, is there going to be a point where they're just dumped and completely abandoned by this company? Because yes, I know it has been years since the release of these things, but essentially what's being done is you are taking away content people paid for. You're not just removing the ability to now pay for it. You're not just creating artificial scarcity for no reason, which would also be dumb. You are now removing the ability for a lot of players to access something that they bought. This is another example, by the way, of digital media just being horseshit. Everybody asks me, like, why do you swear by physical media? Why do you wish they'd put the DLC on discs? Why do you wish that they didn't give you those dumb voucher codes and they put it on disc? Why do you wish that, games would go back to that era where they weren't patched all the time? This is why. This is genuinely why. People who bought multiplayer things for these games, people who bought Erudito credits, and I never bought any, but people who did, people who bought this stuff, they're now losing it. And I think there's not enough examples out there of this just happening very much full force in your face. It's usually played down, like in my opinion Ubisoft is doing, lied about, like in my opinion Ubisoft is doing through their teeth, or people just don't care. They turn a blind eye to it and they're like, well, it's an old thing anyway, who cares? But you know what? When it hits the game you care about, when it hits the game you like, you'll care. That's what it always is, right? Obviously, if I've never played World of Warcraft one time and it shuts down, I don't feel like I'm missing out. But a lot of people love that game, and they're going to lose a lot of money they spent on stuff when that goes away. This is my problem with digital movies, digital games, constant online connections, and these stupid-ass checkpoints that they've been putting in games more again recently in the last generation than they were in the PS4 generation, kind of bringing them back from the Assassin's Creed 3 era of like the Uplay passport and just garbage like that. This is my problem with digital books. It's my problem with digital everything, is that if you don't have it in your house or apartment or trailer or wherever you live, I don't know, back in the back alley, siphoning power off of a major convenience store to play your video games, I don't know where you are. If you don't have that stuff physically able to be held in your hands, somebody can always come in and take it away from you. And I'm glad that there's another example of that can be pointed to here, but I'm really getting sick of seeing it. This is what I call a betrayal of players. This is what I call a betrayal of trust. Not that any of us trust any of these companies anymore anyway. And it genuinely makes me so mad, because I think these multiplayers are underrated experiences in and of themselves. I think they're fun, and at the very least, they should just be allowed to exist off on their own, and if people want to go on and play it, that's not really taking money off of Ubisoft's pocket. Now, if they were going bankrupt, they weren't making like $1 billion a year off of Assassin's Creed and microtransactions and all this other stuff, and their other games and Just Dance and everything, fine, I get why it would shut down. They're not. They are thriving. And what are they doing? They're pulling away experiences from the players, not just multiplayer, even single-player DLC. It's ridiculous. It is a joke. I just burped. And frankly, I'm really mad. I don't know what else to say about it except for this. I hate when people lie. Like, at least be honest that you're a dick. Just, like, be a jackass openly, because at least I can respect that. Like, I won't like it. I will mock you still, make fun of you, and say it's dumb, but at least it's not lying. And I really think that if they already decommissioned these servers like they told somebody, like has been the case for months apparently, or at least the last month, where players haven't been able to access this content, and now single-player DLC is basically going away too for a lot of people, it is a joke. Yeah, a lot of people talked about the Assassin's Creed Liberation thing, about losing access to that. However, that was patched up and fixed. That's still going to be available, but all this other content, gone. And if they can do it here, if they can do it to the Assassin's Creed games, which are some of the biggest games in gaming, they can do it to any future games they make, and other major developers can do it too. I'm mad, it sucks, there's no excuse for it, and it's BS. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I do have another channel, Degenerate Plays, where we play through a lot of games, hang out, and have fun. We do play some Assassin's Creed stuff over there. This just is so unacceptable, man. It is so unacceptable. And people are just going to roll over and take it. They just bend over and take it because, like, oh, you know what? It's just the future. Digital's just the way it works. I don't think people have to just accept that and say nothing. But anyways, I'm sure this changes nothing. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please be sure to check out everything in the description. My wife has a wonderful Etsy store that she's been working on a lot. We also have stuff going on over there, and we have a thriving Discord and other places you can hang out with us, so we hope to see you there. Have a fantastic day. Stay shway, and I'm going to end this before I say something I regret, because I'm just pissed off.